This is my audience. You can show Dad. Cool. Gracias. Hello, my name is Ryan Rodriguez. Um, I'm going to take the time to talk to you about NFL concussions. Um, in my time playing football, I've experienced many painful injuries, but nothing compares to what a concussion can do to you. A lot of you enjoy the game of football, and you think it's fun to watch NFL players hit each other left and right. But a lot of you don't know just how much effect a hit like that can do to a man's brain. Um, just a preview of what I'm going to talk about, what a concussion is, the problems of a concussion, the long term effects, as well as how we could avoid getting a concussion in a game of football. Quick question for y'all: what is the cost for care? Um, Many people have their own definition for that. Um, there are 256 regular season games in the NFL. According to the team injury reports, over the past two seasons, 306 players have suffered a combined 323 concussions, which is 160 concussions a year. Um, and that was said by Breslow. Before I begin to discuss the problems and long-term effects of a concussion, let's talk about what a concussion is. A concussion is a type of traumatic brain injury caused by a blow to the head. Concussions occur when the head hits something, a hard plastic helmet or a knee or the ground. They also occur when the head moves quickly and violently, even without suffering a direct impact, like during a blindside hit, says Ruby. It is also a well-known fact that most concussions occur without losing consciousness. It has been noted that three in every 10 former NFL players will exhibit some sort of debilitating brain condition like moderate dementia, Alzheimer's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, or Parkinson's disease. Due to these effects on former NFL players, the NFL has seen millions of dollars worth of lawsuits. Lawsuits can have the power to do many things, such as hurt the NFL. Lawsuits can cost billions and ruin the game, says Rogers. The best solution to all of this is for the NFL to increase the strictness of blows to the head and the implement of better headgear. Many coaches and trainers have tried to avoid a discussion of concussions, perhaps because there is no physical evidence of injury. Players and coaches have therefore not taken this issue seriously. Protection against concussions and complications of brain injury is especially important for young players, including elementary and middle school, high school, and college athletes who's still developing their brains, more susceptible to the lasting effects of trauma. That was said by a man named Condi. Studies show that helmets in use today not necessarily provide enough, head protection. They are not properly designed to protect players from concussions on hits from the side of the head. Helmet companies today are constantly coming up with more and more different helmets, and they are said to be getting better and safer in a sense. The study found that football helmets on average reduce the risk of traumatic brain injury by only 20% compared to not wearing a helmet. Of the 10 helmet brands tested, the Riddell 360 provided the most protection against closed head injury and the Adams A2000 the least. That was quoted by Condi. The problem with the helmets that are used today is that they are not made with enough cushion inside the helmet. The cushion inside the helmet is what absorbs the hard blow to the head. Um, so if there is not enough cushion to keep the head in place, then the result will more likely be concussion. Um, the cause of a concussion doesn't always fall on the type or the condition of the helmet the player wears. The way the player decides to wear it is what causes the problem. Um, at least at least once throughout an NFL game, you will see a player's helmet come off, and that would be because the player does not wear the helmet tight enough. When the helmet is not tight enough, it causes the head to move around inside the helmet, which allows the head to take a blow instead of the helmet. The NFL does doesn't take any action when it comes to a player allowing his helmet to fall off um, during the game, but looking at all the concussion records back in 2013, it shows that most concussions occurred in the wide receiver and cornerback position. This is said because football has become more of a passing game, which allows wide receivers to take more hits to the head than other players on the field. When an NFL player goes through a concussion, the NFL does not imply a rule as to how long a player can go without playing another game. The decision simply falls under the trainer or the team doctor. The data also found uh, that half the time players return from their head injuries without missing a game, and that was quoted by Breslow. Most players that are said to have a concussion are allowed to play the game the following week, um, which is something that shouldn't be done. There are guidelines by the NFL Players Association that say that players are at risk to repeat the injury within 10 days post concussion. This is an important thing to consider because the more head injuries a person goes through, the more likely they're to develop complications um, in the future. Um, a number of studies have been done to measure which helmet sustains the most impact. The study found that most helmets, on average, reduce the risk of traumatic brain injury by only 20%, which is not a lot. Compared to not wearing a helmet, that was quoted by Bradley. Scientists found that the Riddell 360 provided uh, the most, protection against head injury and concussion. One thing the NFL should do is provide players with the correct head equipment in order to prevent players from head injury. The NFL, I think, needs to require teams to issue helmets that are equipped with the correct amount of cushion inside of them. By making sure the teams custom fit helmets on players, it will make sure that the helmet does not allow the head to move around inside the helmet. Another thing that should be added to the helmets is a brain sensor. What I mean by that is that each helmet should have a sensor in it that links itself to a monitor on the sidelines, which allows a doctor to monitor the brain activity in many ways um, while an athlete is on the field. Reebok has a new impact sensor that flashes when impacts exceed a certain threshold, um, and that was quoted by Hansen. An LED light on the rear is designed to flash a yellow or red light, red being more severe. When the impacts meet, it hits a certain threshold. It does not transmit data, but displays how many hits occur in a practice or a game. This state of the art sensor is called the check light that sells for approximately roughly around $150. You would think that this isn't, something too expensive, and I feel that NFL teams should be able to afford something like this. If you watch a game, an NFL game, at least you see at least uh, one player's helmet will come off. The reason behind this is because a player, obviously, like I said, does not wear the helmet tight enough like it should be. As of right now, there is a rule that says if a player's helmet does come off, they have to sit out for one play. The NFL needs to add, you know, a rule that says if a player's helmet falls off either once or twice, then a player should be fined a certain amount of money for not wearing the helmet like it should be. By doing that, it will make sure that the player tightens his helmet so that he can avoid being fined for it falling off. In the past year or so, both the NFL and college have set out rules regarding blows to the head. One of the rules is that a player is not allowed to hit another player anywhere above or below the neck or around the head area. If a referee sees or catches a player doing that while making a tackle, he will be flagged and fined for roughly about $20,000 to $50,000, and that's only in the NFL. If a player is continuously giving shots to the head to other players, he could see suspension time and a bigger amount of a fine. Um, Pretty much in conclusion, I mean, NFL trainers and team doctors don't seem to take concussions as serious as they should be. Most players that suffer concussion are taking a couple of days off and are allowed to suit up and play for the following week. Um, Letting a player do this is not allowing the brain to recover fully, which would, then higher the risk of head injuries. The NFL needs to set a rule that says a player that suffers, a concussion needs to be out for at least, 7 to 10 days from any contact. Um, by making sure that the doctor allows the correct amount of recovery time, it will guarantee the player, to be completely healthy and no risk. And by implementing these types of rules, um, it saves athletes, thousands of dollars, and it allows athletes to be able to move on and not suffer, post, you know, post injuries, after their, NFL or college careers. Um, that's pretty much it. Thank you.